Hello.
Hello. So I think, I don't know if you want to start with questions, because I hope that we have time to all your questions. So the two watches that we have to client, it's a very important introduction for us, because for the first time we have on the Serpenti, let me say, Tubogas and Spiga family. So the Serpenti that turns around your wrist as a jewelry bracelet. For the first time, we have the opportunity to play with gold and diamonds together. As you can see on the Tubogas version, and even on Spiga, on the Tubogas, we don't have diamonds on the bracelet, and just on the bezel and on the dial. On the Spiga, we have a ceramic bracelet with a few diamonds on the gold links. So, because from the Tubogas, it's not possible to play with diamonds for a technical point of view. And on the Spiga, we have just ceramic and very small links of gold. So for now, for the first time, we're going to have a semi-pavé and full pavé version on Serpenti. Very important introduction, because open to new opportunities, new clients for this line. As you can see, the bracelet, we have a spring inside. We have a completely different construction from the Tubogas, and the inspiration comes from our archive. This bracelet was introduced for the first time in 1960, the end of the 60s, if I remember well. And it was on the Serpenti collection with the square case and with the Club Paris texture on the dial. It was not like this bracelet with a different section on the attach with the head and with the tail. This was one of the most difficult things to do, because as you can see, we have two different textures from the head. We have a very big square elements, and we have very small square elements on the tail. So this kind of difference in terms of design was not so easy to manage, even because the idea was to have the diamonds inside. So if you change the dimension of the square, start to become difficult to have a certain size of diamonds. The watch is beautiful, and as you can see on the screen, the texture is very rich in terms of detail, with a very 3D effect, exactly more or less the same that we have in our vintage product. Just to say that the vintage for us is an opportunity. We don't love to make copy and paste from the archive. As you can see, the vintage product in terms of construction is a bit different, but the idea here was to have the Spiga approach in terms of shapes. We have 3 dial, white, black with the double twirl and single twirl, and we have, for the first time again, this kind of piece. So a full pavé bracelet on this collection. The idea was to have this 3D effect around the bracelet, not just in one part of the bracelet. So we have you have a big surface here, and we have a very, very tiny and small surface on the tail. So the idea was to have the same 3D effect and to do not stretch the surface, because otherwise you have a certain 3D effect when you have a big square, and you have a flat surface when you have the small one. So it was not so easy. We made several trials. We made 3 or 4 metal prototype, because at the beginning I was not satisfied at all about the effect, and even about the thickness of the bracelet to have the right size for diamonds. It looks simple, so we made this kind of bracelet since I remember well 1936. But each time we have a different constraints and different designs. So each time we start more or less from scratch when we change the texture of the bracelet. And the Tubogas is completely different, because we have 2 elements of gold that turns around the spring. Here we have each time the same elements that you put on the metal bracelet. So it's a completely different process. And even because we talk about Serpenti, so it's not so easy each time to reinvent the Serpenti with a different history, with different texture, with different inspiration. So on the Tubo Gas, it's our iconic product. It's an amazing product in terms of sales. And to introduce a new Serpenti, this time with diamonds and gold, was not so easy at all. We start to develop this bracelet 2 years ago. But you know, the watch for men are very, let me say, it's easier because we talk about performance, we talk about ultra thin executions, screw, wheels, power reserve, or tourbillon cage. So it's a sort of technical exploit. It's like exactly like the car. When you talk about a car, you talk about the design, but immediately after you talk about engines and horsepowers and torque. On the ladies' side, it's difficult. It's more difficult because yes, they are now more and more interested in technical features, in mechanical movements, in complications, small and grand complication. But first of all, it's an emotional approach. And the emotion you cannot manage, so you love it or you don't love it. If I can spend hours to talk about the new idea, the new creativity, and the new project, if it doesn't touch your heart, I waste my time. So it's a completely different approach, and that's why it's not so easy design watches for ladies, because you have to mix in the right way technical elements and aesthetics and it's more something that comes from DNA of the brand in a completely different way. So on the ladies, we talk more about jewelry, we talk more about proportions and smoothness of the surfaces, we talk about setting. On the male side, we talk about ergonomic, we talk about technical features, diameters, and that's it. So completely different world. Fortunately, with this brand, we have the opportunity to talk with the lady and the man with the same importance and with the same very important, very unique approach. I would love to know this process because if you know this process, you are able to make many iconic watches. But unfortunately, it's a mix of different elements. First of all, just the market and the clients can tell you if we are talking about an iconic product or not. Because if in your mind you try to make an iconic product, it's not right in the stone that you are able to do it. So it means time. It means that you are able to talk about the brand DNA in a different way. It means that the product that you have in mind, it's a consistent product with the history of the brand. At the same time, it's able to make an evolution of it. Finissimo, maybe we will see in the future, in the next year, it's an iconic product because I think is on the unique products a very innovative technical elements. On the same time, we have a unique aesthetics. So when you combine together this big element, maybe you are able to make something new. For sure, Octofinissimo is something new in the tuxedo formal ultra thin watch, because you don't have another watch like Finissimo on the market. It's for the first time an ultra thin watches look like a sport chic executions with different materials, very versatile, like the chrono that we have that we presented today, or like the new dial, as you can see. So two different products, maybe three if I had the titanium with the rubber strap, that talk to three different clients. You are able to do this when you have a very versatile execution in terms of design, but for sure you have to combine together amazing technical features and very unique aesthetic, because otherwise the watch is a cold, from our point of view, is a cold piece of mechanics, and if you make just the aesthetics, is a beautiful object that doesn't work in a proper way. So it looks like more an artistic execution. On the other side, you have a best amazing engineering exploit. So from the Italian point of view, You have to imagine that in Italy, in Italian, we don't have the word, Italian word to say design, because engineering is too cold and artistic, it's too artistic. So we called applied art to the industry, but it's too long. So we use design, because for the Italians, design, it's a real art to the industry, to follow the needs of the industry and the needs of the clients. So when you are able to combine aesthetics, a new aesthetic with the new meaning, with the new way to use something with a very important technical feature, maybe you have a good design product, a very interesting things. But to be an icon, we will see in the future. Unfortunately, I don't have the perfect recipe to do this. We are working on it, but
I have a question. We've seen with the Octofinissimo in general, a lot of take up from collectors and watch geeks who wouldn't necessarily go to Bvlgari, but they are taken by that particular design. Was that something you planned on ahead of time, or is it something that you only found out later on?
You know, Carl, sometimes we talk about very important products, but this product comes out from a very single and clever idea, very simple idea. The idea at the beginning was to have an ultra-thin execution to explain and to show to the watch industry and to the client the amazing know-how that we have in our manufacturing side. So we started with the manual winding tourbillon, with the gold case, with the satin and brush finishing, polish and satin finishing. The real milestones was the minute repeater, because with the minute repeater we were able to show the thinnest minute repeater on the industry, with a very brand new design, with the titanium case and with the titanium dial. This watch changed completely the perception of the Finissimo, and after the titanium minute repeater, we arrived with the titanium automatic watch. So at the beginning, I'm honest with you, the idea was to show our fair with an unexpected case, with an unexpected design in an unexpected way. So if you see the Tuxedo and ultra thin watches before the Octofinissimo, is just a round shaped watch, very classic in terms of aesthetics, with the thin bezel and white face. After Finissimo, you see many watches today with the matte finishing, with a different design. So we were able to combine a sport chic attitude with a very elegant, let me say, way to wear a watch, with a very elegant movement, with something that has a different history in the watchmaking industry. This is the sparkle. This is the unexpected things. It's exactly the same approach that we have on Serpenti. So when you see the Bvlgari assortment, you have a Serpenti, you have Octofinissimo, you have aluminum, completely different products, completely different way to wear a watch, but it's exactly with the same approach. Just Bvlgari is able to turn a gas pipe in a luxury icons. Just Bvlgari is able to have a minute repeater on the titanium case with a metal bracelet. Only Bvlgari it's able to play with titanium and caoutchouc for the first time in watchmaking industry. So it's even something very easy to say. I love to say that is an unconventional way to use common materials and to use mechanic expression that everybody knows. But when you combine together a gas pipe and a diamonds, you have a Serpenti, and when you combine together a titanium, very striking design with the thinnest minute repeater on the industry, you have the Octofinissimo. So again, it's a different time to wear a Grand Complication watch. It's a different time to wear a jewelry watch. It's a different time to wear a sport chic watch like the aluminum. All the three things are very Italian. All the three things are very casual and very unusual in the way of wearing. The idea of collaboration is very interesting for us. We try to have each time in collaboration that makes sense with our brand, often with artists, and it's not so easy to manage. because each time that you imagine to have a collaboration, it means that you have a limited edition. It means that you have to cut your common process in terms of manufacturing side to produce something something different in terms of dial or habillage of different execution. We love to make a limited edition. Everybody makes limited edition and collaborations. It's not so easy to find the right artist or the right collaboration, but for sure we're gonna have different collaboration in the future with different for different collections. So stay tuned and we will see. So after the feathers, before the feathers, it was the enamel, and today we try to play with colors in a different way, micro painting, enamels, feathers, but we love to find a métier d'art that makes sense with our history. Again, everybody have his own métier d'art. We come from Rome. It's not enough to say that we come from Italy. So we have a Roman heritage. We look at different expression. As you can see, for the first time, we introduce a mosaic of feathers. So it's not just a common feathers, but we start to evolve this concept. Even on this watch, we play with feathers and diamonds. So what does it mean, feathers for Bvlgari? It means that we love to play with feathers in unconventional way. And this is our first execution. We are working on it, and we try to find each time the Bvlgari way when we talk about métier d'art or when we talk about other expression of our design. So as you can see, we combine together feathers and skeleton movement, diamonds, because again, color and technical features are the core of this business unit. So precious metals, precious materials, and amazing execution, let me say. Ladies loves enamel, love gemstones, loves feathers, loves, I think, something that talk to you about the Bvlgari heritage. If I start to play with something that doesn't make sense with our brand, with our history, with our heritage, I think the client doesn't follow us. If we be consistent, if we are able to be consistent with our heritage and each time try a different métier d'art, but again, talk about the brand in a contemporary way, we found client that are gonna follow us. Otherwise, what is this? Why Bvlgari makes this kind of things? Honestly, it becomes difficult to explain. So we try to stay very, very focused and consistent with our history, and at the same time, we try each time to make an evolution of it. The challenge was in the why at the beginning, the first dial was made with just one feather, just a unique piece of feather that cover all the dial. It was very impressive because you have an amazing texture with the very different nuances of colors. After that, we say what we're gonna do. We try to make a different level, a different step on this kind of design, and we discuss with the suppliers. We don't have this know-how in-house in our facilities, so first of all we have to find the right suppliers, because when you have something in mind, you have to able to find someone able to turn your idea into real products, and after you have to be able to find someone able to produce what you have in mind. So not just one of a kind piece, but the idea is to have 50 watches like this. This is a limited edition of 50 pieces. And the idea was, I would love to have something different. I would love to have something that talk about the brand. So as you can see, the feather is a natural element. It's very easy. You can play with the very curved shapes, but Bvlgari is a geometrical elements. And that's why we decided to have triangular elements to better explain the texture of the feathers and the color, and at the same time combine it with our geometrical roots, with our DNA in terms of design. To have a dial like this, I think that you have to make several trials, and maybe to have just one dial, you have to throughout more or less 4, 5, 6 dials. So it's a very difficult to have. That's why it's a limited edition. And it was a long process. The dial is made, some dial for the feather like this are made in Switzerland, and other dials we made in France because we found an amazing savoir-faire. We love to play with feathers because it's a very rich in terms of colors and the texture is unique. Intarzio technique was difficult to develop. It looks like a very simple dial, but at the end is not simple at all, because the idea is to have a real Intarzio. Something looks like a fan that the lady used during the summer. As you can see, it's a real 3D effect. It's a real 3D dial. But the difficulty is even to have diamonds on this dial, because you have to make the holes on the mother of pearl. And even in terms of colors, for us was very important to have different shades and different nuances, different texture, because otherwise the dial becomes flat. So the Intarzio, it's important in Lucea because Lucea is an everyday watch, round-shaped watch with a jewelry touch. And we have to find a way to express the expression of the brand in terms of everyday watch with the jewelry touch. So have to be not so crowded, but at the same time have to be different, have to be with its own personality. That's why it's not so easy, because the ladies' watch with a round-shaped case for an everyday use maybe is the most complicated one. And as you can see on Lucea, we have different execution, even with our skeleton-based caliber that comes from our archive. You know that in the late 90s, the beginning of the 90s, late 80s, the beginning of 90s, we developed our skeleton movement on the Bvlgari with the letters on the peripheric, on the oscillating mass, and some letters on the dial side. So the idea was, again, coming back on our archive to reinvent the brand through our iconic products. And today we have a wide range of execution on this movement that is made in our facilities. And the idea was to use the letters with the same shapes of the bridges as a dial. So we changed completely the construction and the aesthetic of the movement to have these letters and to play with it. So with diamonds, with the colors, with different executions. Lucea, the evolution of Lucea is again to have, let me say, a mainstream watch with the jewelry details. You see that we have a very iconic bracelet. We have a very unique crown with diamonds on the entire lineup. And we have a steel and gold version. Now we have the steel and gold with diamonds on this watch, with diamonds on the first link, diamonds on the crown, diamonds on the dial with the letters. So it's a very versatile collection with different references, different price point. And we work on Lucea for the future with very interesting elements that we are working on, and we will see. The major issue when you play with the colored gemstones is the size of the stones. Because if you play with a very small stones, you don't have the color, it's almost dark. So the colored gemstones are beautiful when you have a big dimension, when you have big surfaces. As you can see here, we have a big sapphire on the bezel. And you see that the color is important for us. But for this kind of serpenti, if you see, the diamonds are the best solution today, because on the square elements, you see that we have 4 diamonds. So if you imagine these 4 diamonds are 4 gemstones, colored gemstones, it becomes too small to have a certain color that we love. So this is the big issue when you play with colored gemstones. You need a certain size or a very specific color, because otherwise it becomes too dark or it becomes too light, almost transparent. But why not? We would love to play with colored gemstones. So if we find a different solution, for us today, it's very important to have a gold and diamonds serpenti. It's in the major part, the biggest part of the business for ladies is diamonds. For sure, Bvlgari is the master of colored gemstones. So colored gemstones are very important for us, but we love to play with colored gemstones on a certain collection with certain dimensions. At the moment, the idea is to have diamond setting on serpenti, and we are very happy about the results. We're very happy. Carillon Tourbillon, it's a different process. It's a Grand Complication watch, and we completely redesigned the movement because, as you know, come from the Daniel Roth collection. So different shapes of the bridges, different shape of the thumbers, and we use the same hammers, but we completely redesign the main plate and many bridges and components. The Octoroma case is perfect for this kind of product because it's a more round shape. It's easier to wear when you have a thick movement or a complicated movement. Just to show you, this is the case of the watch, and we worked to have the best quality of sound as possible. It's a very thin in terms of construction. As you can see, the round elements hold the movement, and the octagonal one, it's completely open with this line to amplify the sound. And we use the same design on the dial. So vertical lines on the bridges to show you the barrel, to show you the wheels, and to show you the centrifuge and different components. It's a beautiful watch, honestly, and we love this kind of execution. We love the quality of sound of this watch, and the 3 hammers makes the opportunity to have different notes compared to 2 hammers. And I'll try to show you the movement during the sonnerie. Can you hear the hammers? Okay. This watch was finished during the COVID period. All the watches that you have on this presentation were sometimes develop some dials or some watches like the aluminum during the lockdown. So it was a very tough moment for us. But on the other hand, a very important moment in terms of creativity, because during the lockdown you have time to imagine the future and the evolution of our iconic product. So to assembling a watch like this, a watch master needs more or less 6 months, and it's the same watch master who assembling the watch starting from A to Z, and just at the end of the process you can hear the real sound of the watch. It's a very long process, and 2 years to develop, to change components of this movement. It's not a brand new development, but we are very happy about the results. We are very happy about the styling. It's a super striking watch with it's a very unique mood. The Chiming Watches is a part of our DNA. When we get Manufacture des Autres Horlogeries in 1999, we found an amazing know-how in terms of chiming watches. And we start even before to have chiming watches in the Bvlgari assortment. But let me say that Bvlgari is one of the 5-6 brands in watchmaking industry able to develop and produce chiming watches in-house. We have different movement. If I remember well, now we have 5 different chiming watches, Grand Sonnerie and Minute Repeater, with different thickness, with different function. I think that we have still today one of the most complicated watch on the market is the moon phase perpetual calendar Grand Sonnerie. I missed something in terms tourbillon for sure, and it's a part of our heritage. We have the thinnest minute repeater on the market. We have one of the most complicated watch on the market. the Chiming watches for the watches is like, let me say, the amazing color gemstones for the jewelry division. It's our jewels, it's a part of our DNA, and we are working to develop a Chiming watches in a different way with different design. As you can see, it's not even more the thinnest minute repeater on the market. It's even maybe the thinnest minute repeater for ladies on the market. We don't have many minute repeaters for ladies, and Diva's Dream is the most, for me, is the most feminine one with this wide dial and with ultra thin execution. So different client. Today is a strong trend, but we start to develop minute repeater more, I think, 35 years ago. And still today, it's one of the major part of our Grand Complication assortment. So it's not just a trend. And as a Bvlgari is a modern company, is a contemporary company, we don't follow the trend. We know that there exist some trends, we look at the trends, but if the trend doesn't fit with our DNA, with our heritage, it's just something that it's good to know, but we are not obliged to follow. As a designer, we have to be able to turn in an opportunity, in a thought, in an inspiration, every event of our life. For sure, we have some good events, some event as less funny, but for sure the pandemic moment, it's interesting in terms of how our needs change and how our life change. As a designer, I have to imagine the product that doesn't exist now, but it's gonna exist in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And we have to imagine the evolution of our iconic signs during these years. So during the lockdown, we spent many time to think about the evolution of our products and what we're gonna have when the pandemic is over. It was a very tough moment. We developed the aluminum, and we start the production of the aluminum during the lockdown, and we developed many watches during the lockdown. The idea is to that we need to have fun, that we need to stay together after this moment, and the idea is to have occasion to share our emotions and our passions. Doesn't mean that you have a specific product in mind, but maybe it was the right moment to have an aluminum watch. Maybe it was the right moment to imagine a different way to communicate our products, and maybe it was the right moment to imagine a digital evolution of our company. During the lockdown, many boutiques around the world were closed, and we start to sell watches on the platform, on online platform. You cannot expect it before, because we start to sell very important watches online, and this is something that changed our way to imagine the evolution of some products. For sure, we have two different clients, loyal clients that love to have a real sales experience and luxury experience in our boutique, but we even have a younger client that love to get things right now and to receive at home after 3, 4, 5 days. It's a completely different expression, it's a completely different luxury experience. We have different clients, we have to follow both, but we have to find the Bvlgari way to follow it. So it's during this kind of period, you have many times to discover things about your company, to discover things about your way of thinking, and to discover even different needs from the clients, from the market, and for the brand.